So I was wondering if we could first talk about a brief introduction to the history of Toika.
Sorry, could we just quickly introduce?
Yeah,
who we're
sorry.
talking to?
Yeah. So it's Yrjölä. Is it correctly pronounced?
Quite right.
Okay, yeah. Okay, so thank you so much for having us visiting here in Toijala at Toika. Thank you, Jukka Yrjölä and Mona Yrjölä for some really nice days here. I was wondering if you could first introduce the history briefly of Toika. How did it start? Who are you now? What generation of this long family history? Yeah.
Okay, so the company was founded in 1898, and already before that, reeds were made by hand in the family, at least 2 generations, and probably even before that, but there were no history books anymore left to find that out. But this family came from southern Sweden, from Markaryd, and Johannes Pilgren traveled a lot in northern Finland, selling reeds which his family had made in Markaryd. And he had 5 sons which were working with him by turns, and when his youngest son Gustav started traveling with his father thought that now I have been traveling enough, 25 years, and gave Gustav his tools and retired, I guess. And Gustav started doing that job, but quite soon after some years he heard that there was a machine invented in Germany, and you could make reeds much faster and out of metal material more efficiently and much more better quality than these handmade wooden reeds were, and he bought this machine. And when the machine arrived to Finland, that was to Kauhava, which is in the middle part of Finland. About the company was founded 1898, and it succeeded very well, of course, because nobody else could do these reeds like that at that time, and it was growing, and he had married a Finnish lady. They had five children there, and after the Second World War, First World War, they decided to move to this area. We are now located in Toijala, between Hämeenlinna and Tampere, because the customers, which was textile industry, was mostly located in this area. Tampere is a traditional textile city in Finland, and also in Hämeenlinna, Forssa, there were industry, and we used to make reeds for textile industry also for handlooms. And that was probably the main reason to move south. From there, even Gustav didn't speak much Finnish because he was originally Swede. The family grew here, and my grandfather, my mother's father, who was Gustav's oldest son, got interested in business opportunities also, and but he wanted something of his own, and he decided to start with wallpaper factory. He founded a wallpaper factory. Fritjof Pilgren's wallpaper factory was the name first, and he quite soon he took his friend as a partner, who was Ritola, and that's where Pilgren Ritola wallpaper factory is even now at our neighbor, but it belongs to Ritola family this time. So he ran this wallpaper factory, and he had also nail factory, while Gustav still made reeds and also little by little other equipment like stretchers and shuttles between the two world wars. During the Second World War, Gustav retired. I think he must have been somehow ill or so, and Fritjof, my mother's father, took also this business at that time. I think it was 1942, and ran also wallpaper factory, and this reed factory must have been busy. And during the World War, there was ammunition manufacturing at the wallpaper factory. They didn't make any wallpapers, they just made ammunition there, so it was a dangerous place, and my grandfather was running that there instead of wallpaper making. So but reeds were needed very much also during the World War, because they had to make textiles for soldiers and for war purposes. So when some men were sent to army from reed making, we had troubles, and they asked, why won't you deliver reeds, and they were told that they are fighting, and quite soon those men were sent back to make reeds. So it was that important at that time. So after the World War II, there was a great demand for everything, and it was also reeds were made a lot, and then we started making also the looms. Looms were earlier made mostly by private persons.
Sorry, I'm gonna interrupt because I can see the sound is a little bit on the low side, and I think it gets hard to hold up your hand for a really long time. So I think maybe it is better if we use this.
Put it in there, and then we just
Or
take
we
a
can
break.
also-
Put it in, because and then
And also I need some.
then we can just make a break if we need to change it, or
Yeah, because it's the kind of thing, it's not heavy in itself, but over time it's wearing up. And I also just need a coffee. So yeah, maybe if we just jump back in from where you started talking about looms.
the Second World War.
Yeah. Okay, let's start we'll continue from there. So after the Second World War, there was a big demand for everything in Finland, and reeds were not an exception. So we made reeds and also other equipment, and started to make looms also at that time. So there was no need for any marketing. Everything we did could be delivered. So my grandfather had a very busy business time for 30 years, and he wanted to retire in the early 60s, and he thought that my mother was and her husband, so my father, were best choice to continue the business, and my father had very different thoughts of his future, but for some reason he convinced him to continue this business. He was going to be some lawyer or something, and not in business at all, and so they started running this business, and as they knew very well English language and also some German, Swedish language. They started export, and especially early 70s was the time when we increased export to Western countries like USA and Japan, and also to Sweden. Later in the 70s, there was a boom in Sweden, and it was easy to do. My mother even lived in Sweden some time at that time, and business was very good at that time. So our product range covered all weaving equipment and looms, and also domestic market was growing. They were founding weaving centers, and schools had a lot of students for only weaving. But in the 80s it started to change, and radically in Sweden weaving actually almost stopped, or their need for new equipment. They bought too many. They were delivered too much looms there. So even later, after many years, they still opened parcels to get new looms from there. And also the export didn't. There were a lot of competition in the US market, so export went down, and my father had to retire in the middle of 80s, late 80s, and then we were asked, me and my wife Mona were asked to continue the business, or to come to help first, and we came to help for temporarily, and that's 40 years ago. So it was not everything is temporary here. So, but that was not our idea. Like my father had not thought about this either. But something happens that there are many good things also having this company to run, and our first job was to computers, to introduce the computers to work, and that was very important, because we had a lot of staff working at the office and making handwork, which would be saved by using computers, and Mona has studied this computer thing, programming, and so it was easy for us, and at the late 80s was still very good time for business, because new schools were still established, and there was a lot of money. They opened the money sources. We could have foreign debt and so on. So it looks good, but soon, when the 19th began, there was a big depression, and as our export was only 7% from the turnover at that time, so it affected us a lot, and we thought we need to increase the export, but because there was no hope at the domestic market at that time at all, and we traveled to Japan, to America, Norway, and that really helped, and Finnish currency was quite low, so it helped also the pricing, and that was the right decision at that time, and slowly also the domestic market a little bit recovered, but not that much as it earlier was. So the 80s was a good time. So that's what the 90s was, but then we thought that this even the global demand for weaving equipment is not increasing, so we thought something else and started doing also furniture in the early 2000, and that's our other business at the moment. Besides weaving equipment, we produce furniture. We can use same machinery and same materials for that.
Sorry, can I interrupt? It's just because you're actually just covering all the questions, which is really amazing.
Yeah.
So it's more a question of, do we need for the podcast purpose to have some of the questions to be asked, or do you think it's just great that we just have all this material?
I think it's just great, and then I think we can also judge when we sit and edit. I mean that then I can also speak them in. If
I just think it would be more like kind of natural flow.
Yeah.
Because also you've gotten to the point where my questions start to come in.
Yeah.
So
Okay.
I thought maybe it's a good thing to pause like in the 80s.
Yeah.
And then now you can go back and ask the different questions.
Yeah.
Do you need a copy?
Or we can shift place and you can go into the computer looms and I can come back, or if we're on a flow now.
It's up to you if you want to cover the earlier questions.
Can you pause mentally, Jukka, by the 80s and then continue? So then we just step one step back to a little bit earlier, and then Stine jumps in by the 80s.
Yeah, okay.
Is that okay?
Yes.
No, I have you. Thank you.
So there might be a little bit of repetition, so just for the sake of the podcast.
You can ask more specific questions, so I try to keep inside this. This was the history.
Yeah, but it's super good, and
It's
it's
amazing.
super
It's
good.
just trying to think about how we're going to cut the podcast.
And I also think it's really nice to raise these also larger historical and societal events, because I think that's what many of us don't think about, how that of course influences handicraft. So that's great.
Yeah. You're only saying good things. It's just about the format. Your microphone just flipped over, but it looks like the sound is really good on the thing there. So it's great.
So I guess that one of the things that that we thought about when we visited the archive in Denmark is how we could see that there has been state involvement. There's been political involvement in the development of craft in Denmark. So in the 1930s there were big social reforms that really supported the development of these little mobile looms that I also showed you some of them yesterday. And in Sweden they have hemslöjd, and handicraft is a political priority. Is it the same? Do you experience in Finland that it has a political priority, and are there big, like now you very importantly mentioned some of the big historical events that have affected the field of loom production and hand weaving and weaving in general, but have there been kind of initiatives the last 100 years that have affected, like from a political level in Finland, that have affected loom production, like innovation funds or
I don't know if the politics itself, but the economy and urbanization certainly has there and also the it's kind of economy, but the question of your unemployment. Earlier, if people were unemployed, they could produce their own textiles and save some money.
No.
But nowadays it's not a question of that. It's more like a hobby weaving.
Yeah.
Yes, you have to spend more money if you want to do it yourself.
It's more expensive. But then there is what you also pointed to earlier, that schools have bought looms, like it's been part of elementary education in Finland to do craft.
Yes.
So that has been a market for Toika.
Yes, that's correct. And when the economy was better earlier, they had money for this, but now they are more strict concerning what are the educational purposes. So if these people don't get jobs at this, for example, textile brands, they are not going to educate these people, and so there's no money for this education. That affects a lot.
Yeah. Do you see anything, because now, for example, in Denmark, there is a big investment in books again in the schools and to read physical books. And I'm wondering if there could be a reintroduction of weaving and craft. Is that's not a tendency that is to see it?
We haven't seen that, but there's a tendency for smaller looms, because spaces are smaller and there are a lot of used large still available large looms as used.
Yes, I heard about a school that is introducing books again.
Yeah.
They want to read.
Yeah.
Okay.
So there are some of the same
So
tendencies.
I hope
It soon comes the looms. So we did see some of the catalogs yesterday that you have also, Toika, been producing little mobile looms, definitely from the 50s. I think some of the early catalogs were like, and then much more from the 70s. But can you tell something about? So that's kind of been part of Toika's production for many years. But it seems that the looms, the smaller looms, are more popular in the last 10, 15, or how does it look with popularity?
Smaller looms.
Yes, certainly rigid looms and table looms and small floor looms, because they were not sold that much earlier, and if they were, they have been destroyed because there's not so much value in them, and may be easier to destroy if you don't need them. So we have found out that there is some market, and also earlier there were these professionals. They never recommended any smaller looms, and that's why people thought that I will use a large loom or don't use a loom at all, and that's why we were not so anxious to bring those to markets, but this generation has now been moved aside, and there are hobby private persons who consider small looms. They are cheaper, and in case it's not their job, they can probably easily sell it or store the loom.
Yeah. I think that's a really good point also in relation to the Danish history, because the little looms were taken very serious in Denmark. They were, so when I look at Swedish instructive literature, the small looms are thought of like as a bit ridiculous and for children. And in Denmark, they were also thought for children, but they were like, with all that Meta Rosenberg, who we dealt a lot with when we were visiting Denmark, she speaks about adults weaving, and when you have a moment free, you can sit with the loom, or you can sit in the garden, like as you can sit in the garden weaving. Because I thought about this image you have of Siru, yeah,
yes.
where it's by the Mökki, we're looking over the sea, and I was like, but that's very similar to this situation.
100 years old.
Yeah.
Picture,
So I think what you say there about how it is perceived, the little loom, and how professionals speaks about it, it's very important for how practitioners approach it. Yeah. That's very interesting. Then we talked about the also when we visited Denmark, how the countermarch loom, the Danish countermarch loom, was very inspired by the Finnish countermarch loom that Johannes Sigumfeldt were introduced to in Wetterhof in Harmenlinna, and Wetterhof and Harmenlinna is very closely located to here, and you showed complete familiarity with Karl Neu, the German teacher.
Yes.
But you have both been producing counterbalance looms and countermarch looms. When did the countermarch loom take over in Finland?
It must have been quite a long time ago, because the counter balance looms we have delivered are mostly to export foreign deliveries. Somebody may ask still, but once a year, if you have counter balance in Finland, but it's not very often, because there are technically countermarch seems to be better.
Yeah. So that development is very similar to Denmark, but seems to be very different compared to Sweden. But I think so you said that Toika both produce reeds for industry and hand weaving. In the first half of the 20th century, who were the primary customers? Were that private customers, or was it institutions, or do you have any feeling of that?
Of course, textile industry, but concerning these loom reeds, I think they were mainly private customers, because at that time there was not that much educational purposes, and not hobby. Public hobby was not out of the question.
So also when Toika sold a loom after the Second World War, it was there the hobby field also didn't really exist yet, or
not that much. I think they went to more like productive purpose or half productive
Yeah,
purpose,
yeah.
and we at that time we had stores dealing with those, and they were not textile shops, they were hardware stores.
Yeah,
They
yeah.
were dealing with our
Yeah.
products.
So it has been kind of you have been selling for private customers, but there has been maybe semi-professional, like producing
that's
for
it.
sales.
Yes,
Yeah.
during winter time at
Yeah.
least, yes.
Yeah. Yeah, but I think then.
Can I suggest a question?
Yeah.
I remember yesterday you were talking about there was a point where you started selling the wooden parts as well, where before that you sold more the accessories, the wreaths, and then people built the looms.
Yeah.
And then at some point it changed.
Yeah.
Maybe a question about that?
Yeah.
And when that was? And
Yeah. So in our conversation yesterday, you mentioned that now, what was the question again?
Because you
About the metal parts.
Yeah, when you started selling the wooden parts as well.
So people you sold the metal parts
I
to
think-
begin with, wasn't it so? Or
I think she's meaning that we sold just the accessories and took the looms later.
Yeah.
After the Second World War.
No, I mentioned that we used to sell the metal parts. If you made a loom, then you could buy the metal.
Yeah.
Oh, you
parts.
told that?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
I actually I don't know much about that.
Yeah.
Oh, but then maybe we could have Mona for a second if you
No, I think
If you move
she
the
had
microphone.
had them in the price list, and there was this title.
Sorry,
in
can we
that
move the
they
microphone?
Yes,
shall we-
yes. I know.
just what you know.
I know only our time, but not
No.
before
No.
concerning this.
Yeah.
I just remember we have had the metal parts for a loom in our price list.
Yeah.
For a long time.
Yeah.
And then if you were a carpenter
Yeah.
or you made a loom by yourself, then you could buy the metal parts from us.
Yeah, because that was what we almost started by yesterday, that I had visited Wetterhof and I had come across these construction drawings, and you said that, or both of you said that you, before the Second World War, all villages had a carpenter
That's correct.
that produced looms based on either history, like what they knew, but also on Carl Neu's drawings.
Yes.
And then at a point, Toika starts to sell these metal parts, but the wooden work is still done in the village.
I think we did make looms then also, but there were available metal parts.
Yeah.
If you made them
If you
yourself.
kept it the old way.
Yes.
Yeah. So you didn't need to have a blacksmith
Yeah.
involved.
Yes.
But that's so interesting as this of going from looms being produced on site to looms partly being produced on site and some parts being bought to looms being industrially manufactured.
Yes. The metal work has been always more appreciated than woodwork,
No.
and this has I have found out that sometimes when we have asked some metal parts to be made earlier, maybe in the 90s, they told that it doesn't have to be that exact. You make the wood parts according to our, and that is not the fact, because we make a big series of these wooden parts, and the holes must be exactly where the drawing shows.
Yeah.
But that's has been at least the attitude earlier.
That's interesting with this hierarchy.
Yeah. Also the salaries have been better at metal working.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you.
Great.
Do you need a small break before I start asking questions?
Okay, we could drink something.
Yeah.
We could take.
I'll just stop this. Okay, so I'm gonna try and jump in here. Make it very natural. So we kind of went through more the history up until around the 80s, which for us is still almost present day, right? And it was in the 80s that you started manufacturing these computer controlled looms, and they were they all pneumatic?
No, we at the same time we developed computer control and a pneumatic beater and also pneumatic tightening warp tension system in the same loom. But the use of these looms, the purpose was quite different, because with the computer looms you weave complex designs and with the pneumatic beater you use normally only 2 or 4 shafts. It's best for rock weaving. So they were not at the same loom. There was no reason why they could have been at the same loom, but the purpose was so different. The other was the pneumatic loom was meant for production weaving for some kind of institutions or private small companies, and computer loom first for educational purposes mainly. Our competitor had invented the computer loom, and we were in a hurry to get our own too, because at the end of the 80s the economy was growing and there was a lot of money available for public institutions, and we were afraid that if we wouldn't have computer looms, they could price their loom as high as possible, and we had the software already. Mona had programmed a software, this weaving master, but our competitor offered a free software first.
That's hard to compete with.
Yeah, because they thought that they will make the money selling just the computer controlled looms, because we didn't first have that, but very soon we could have it on at the fair in May 87. So it was only some months the time where we knew that there was a new weaving fair in Finland, and we had to have something new there, and the situation with the competitor was that we need to have the computer loom also, and that was very, very important for the future, because we were competing maybe 5 years very heavily, or at least 3 years before the big depression came to Finland, and our competitor bankrupted during that depression. And
so it was a Finnish competitor that you had?
Yes.
What were they called?
Varpapu.
Yeah. Okay. And if I understood correctly from our talks yesterday, 80s was like the biggest point in the company, the biggest sales, and is that correct?
Yes, that's correct. Yes, early 80s we exported a lot to Sweden and also many Western countries, but then that went down during the decade, and Sweden stopped quite rapidly, but the domestic market was still very good in the late 80s. The economy was growing, and there were money available easier, and so that compensated export. Yes.
And do you think that's also tied to why you were then able to do these new developments with the computerized loom and the pneumatic, because there was more money in the business?
Yes, we could finance that quite well at that time. Yes.
And you still today do the computer control looms. But do you still make the pneumatics ones as well?
No, we don't.
that
We
one
don't. Yeah, the demand went down mainly early 2000, maybe 2005, or at that time we didn't make them anymore, and also it was, we would have need to develop it more safer for weavers, because we had two buttons which needed to press simultaneously, so that there were no hands on the way, and it was
The beater
beater game
Yeah.
quite slowly still, but maybe a outsider could hurt him or herself there, and also the demand was so small that we thought that there's no use to develop it anymore.
Yeah, and you said the pneumatic looms, that was more kind of for smaller productions, but larger than just one individual person kind of having a hobby. But it wasn't, of course, big industry. It's like this medium.
Yeah,
Right.
That's right. Yes.
And do you think so? The development probably. I'm kind of just guessing.
Yes.
So it was because this sort of smaller productions, they stopped
Yes,
existing as much.
I think, and also the public customers. There were this kind of workshop for some disabled people, and they didn't have money after the depression anymore for buying these looms, but still there have been inquiries even this year for computer looms, but they are quite rarely, so it probably won't. Pneumatic looms, but it doesn't change the big picture.
No. I'm kind of curious about the computer control looms, how big a part of your overall market it is, if it's like a small specialized thing or if it's like your main thing, and how has that changed through time?
It has been quite steady during time. We have had it actually soon 40 years, and this is first we had it placed under the loom, but quite soon it came above the loom where it still is, and this is kind of third generation of the types which are placed above the loom. So the first we delivered them actually only to Finland in the late 80s, because there was enough demand for that, and we didn't have dealers outside Finland, but when the depression came, then those years, the early 90s, they were very slow. Business was not so good, and when we started finding export markets, not for the computer looms first, we had to be sure that they are good enough for export, but the main change came in early 2000 when our American customers got interested. This is something very good idea, because our system was compact and it was possible to retrofit to an existing Scandinavian type loom, and then we thought that this is our main article for export, computer loom, and the other articles come with that. They follow this, like reeds and shuttles. If the customer buys loom, they probably need also the equipment, and then also it's good for your image to have the kind of computer loom.
Yeah.
And that's our line, what our line has been, and they are we have sold them all over the world. The whole looms and also only this control units.
Yeah. If you're comfortable, I'm curious about like how big a part of the business is it? Is it like a third, like half?
It's concerning this loom
The
business.
computerized loom.
Yeah, but if
Whether
we,
it's the computer itself
yeah,
or
yes,
the loom.
I understand, but if we leave the furniture out,
Right.
so from the loom business, weaving business is about 1/3.
Okay, so there is quite a lot that is not computer
Yes,
relevant,
yes.
kind of.
Yeah.
Yeah. Before moving on from the computer looms, I was just wondering if I could quickly ask Mona a little bit about the programming that you did, because I thought that was really interesting.
I don't know if I can answer.
We try. So yesterday when we were seeing everything, it just randomly kind of came up that actually in the beginning when you started making computerized looms, you actually programmed the first program that you used for this. Is that correct?
Yes.
And
Yes, but I did have help, I think, for the connection to the loom.
Yes, but the design
But
part.
yes, I
and,
did software. Yes.
so could you tell me a little bit about how did you know how to program to begin with?
I studied at Åbo Academy, computer information technology, I think it was called. Actually, I went to study mathematics. Then I don't want to be a teacher, so I changed.
Yeah.
And it was quite new, I think, that we had no small computers, but there was this huge computers.
Yeah, it's back in the day we had to go to a place that was a
Yes.
computer almost. Yeah.
Yes.
Okay, but there we had some programming, so I learned to program also.
Yeah. So where did the idea come to start making these computerized looms? Were you like, oh, actually, you heard someone else had done it, and you're like, I can maybe do this? Like,
Yeah, that was it. It was a question of strategy. Yes, it was very important. As I told you, we had this situation. Which of us will be there after 5 years, and
Yeah,
that's why
Finland.
in Finland, and
Yeah.
that's why we thought we need to have this computer loom. Otherwise, they would have priced it so high that and compete with us with the other products. So,
Yeah. So you saw
we
your
were in a hurry.
you saw your competitors were working on this.
Yeah,
And then Mona was like, I can do that.
yeah, something
I
like that.
started
Yeah,
to make
yeah,
a small program for like a home.
Yes, home computer first.
activity or something.
Yeah, something like Commodore, but not.
Yeah, something like that. First, I made a couple of software programs.
For something else? For something not
Uh,
weaving?
no.
It was for design.
Weaving design.
Design.
Not,
Yes.
not yet the control.
No.
Just design. Yeah, first.
Can you elaborate a little bit on that?
It was fun making it, but it takes a lot of time. And then you always find, what's causing that problem. So it's very elaborate. How to say this. It takes a lot of time, and then I didn't have the time for it. So then I started working at the office and working with Jukka as a secretary, maybe.
So how long did you use this first program that you made? When did you change away from it?
It was early 90s, mid 90s when we started delivering the Norwegian software. So we had this almost 10 years.
Weavepoint?
Weavepoint, yes, yes. So we thought that there's a good software and the market is not that big that there's no use to compete with it, and also at that time the delivering of the software needed some knowledge, so it was not just like a parcel you buy and adapt. So we thought that we can use Mona's time for more
Yes,
productive jobs.
And I think it was also the operating systems were developing so fast, so it would have required a lot of work to make the program
So updated
work in
as
different.
as computers were developing
Yes,
in this
yes.
time.
So I think that's one reason
Yeah.
also.
But it sounds like it was almost 5 years that you were using this.
Yes,
At
we had the
least.
picture with 1987.
Exactly.
I was,
Yeah.
we were expecting our first son.
Yeah.
I just think that's a really special part of your history, especially considering that there wasn't any like extra public funding to do any of these kind of initiatives. I think it's very strong decision to try and develop something as cutting edge as this was at that point. Just I was very impressed when I learned about it.
Yeah, no public funding there. We were in a hurry, and that was the motivation. But we realized that if we are not take this seriously, we are out of the business soon.
Yeah. Okay. Just get back on track here. Yeah, maybe you can just put it back on so you don't have to. Perfect. So before we were talking about kind of this hierarchy of wood versus metal, and then I just had the thought as I was listening to your interview, but also about how then computers is almost like a third material, like it's a different kind of component in the business. And just like before, most people could either make something wood or have access to it, but metal was harder to get to. Then I imagine computers, it's harder to get to. Like I couldn't just build a little computer and put it on my loom. So I imagine this was quite an important step for the business, and I was wondering how that kind of affected your production. Sorry, it's a long question to kind of ask if you're also making computer components in your business, or if it's more focused on the wood and the metal parts.
Yes, the computer loom itself is very good for us because it needs so much knowledge from many branches. It's electric, it's mechanic, it's wooden, it's software, it's weaving. So it's kind of protected somehow for many people, and that's what we thought is good. The special parts for it, there are laser made metal parts. Of course, we buy them outside, and there are many electric components, but the main components are gathered by us, and also the system is gathered by us and tested, and also the development is done by us, and even some of the programming is done here. So we have all the important parts at our hands. So,
Yeah.
so
You don't just have the whole thing come to you.
No,
You have the
no,
different
no,
parts
no.
and you
Yeah,
put it
yeah,
together
yes,
here.
yes.
I assume also to protect your business and the special
Yeah.
knowledge you have.
Yeah, that's important. And also the thing that weaving is not everybody's hobby. So if it was something like a bicycle or television, there would be big producers from East probably making those, but these are all gathered individually. You cannot make a line where you gather them. Special work, so bigger companies don't get interested in this kind of.
Yeah, so it's actually an advantage for you that it's so specialized.
Yes.
Yeah. And you mentioned yesterday, I don't know if this is public knowledge, if it's not, we can remove that, but you mentioned starting to work with Bluetooth from the phone? Was that
Yeah,
correct?
that's the Wi-Fi.
Yeah.
Wi-Fi is also possible. We have this ES series now. It's ES Plus, which means that there's, for example, that the Wi-Fi is also possible. You can use it from your cell phone or tablet, and it has some other features too. So it's a kind of internal facelift. So it looks the same, the units, but there are some. So it's a next generation now.
Yeah, so you're moving
Yeah.
towards the future with this.
Yes.
And we spoke briefly about the fact that because we're also going to Norway to visit the company there that makes a TC2 loom that more kind of, it's not jacka, but it's individual controls. And we were asking about that, and you said that's not a direction to develop in because it would be too different kind of a system. And
Yeah, it would need a lot of money for the development, and there are not many customers in Nordic countries either. So there should be some kind of invention to make it much more simpler. But I cannot see how that would be possible because there are so many yarns to be steered. So that would need so many parts.
yeah, if imagine there is suddenly a big opportunity where the Finnish state says we will give money for development, and you could develop like anything within the weaving part of your company. Is that what you would want to focus on, or is there actually anything else that you thought that is more interesting or more important to develop?
There are some features concerning basic weaving which we probably would develop more electricity there, and so probably not pneumatic because that would need a compressed air, so it's noisy and
Harder to get.
Yeah.
So kind of like a loom that could run by itself without being hand controlled kind of thing, but by electricity?
Not that much because we need it's hand woven is something we appreciate, but everything you see there, but still to avoid this mechanical work and preparing work, something concerning that.
To make it less like hard physically?
Yeah.
But you really, it sounds like you really prioritize the craft of being actually still involved with your hands.
Right.
It's not interesting to you to just push a button.
Because there are weaving machines already, so.
Yeah, because I sometimes wondered about that, how there's only have to be big industry before you can get something that just weaves, and theory it shouldn't be impossible to make, but that's an important point, that the craft has a big value in itself.
Yes.
Okay, that was a lot about computers. Let's see here. Yeah, I'm kind of curious about the kind of customers you sell to, and it's kind of in two different ways. Like I'm both wondering, like how much is kind of an individual person or a small company buying versus how much is institutional, like schools, for example, universities. How is the split between those?
I should say it's about the same. The end customers are about the same, but when we export, we actually always don't know who the final end customer is, because there is a distributor in between us. But I have the idea that I know there are universities and other basic schools or weaving places like Työväenopisto, whatever it is in English, but also private or even designers and even hobby weavers somewhere.
Because that's another thing I was curious about, how much, and maybe it's hard to say because sometimes it's even hard to know if you are, like the difference between if this designers or professional artists versus hobby. Do you have like a feeling of your customer base, if they're more one or the other? Or is this...
We don't ask that. We don't ask that, but there is some kind of when there's always some emails being sent and explained and asked things, but you get the impression that this is a heavy hobby weaver or sells them. Like I just got one inquiry from Greek, and I happen to know that it's designer. So it's kind of both are there, and it's hard to say sometimes, but you have some kind of idea.
Yeah. I'm also curious about how much is kind of local sales and maybe even like Nordic region versus international sales. Are you more export or more here?
During the last 5 years, export outside EU has been very good, but just the recent times these custom fees concerning the United States and Brexit was also not good for us. So you never know where it is going. So it's important to have customers widely all over the world.
Good point. So you can really feel you get affected by these big societal changes.
That's a fact. Yes.
Yeah. Would you say your business is more based on export than domestic?
Yes, weaving business is more.
Yeah. But then you also have the furniture production.
Yeah.
Is it the opposite way with that? Or?
Yeah, it's almost totally domestic now. We planned even the Russian market, but after the war began, we forgot those ideas.
Yeah. Yeah, you have a lot to navigate in. And I don't know if you know this, but I had a question thinking about which kind of institutions you sell to. I'm just kind of curious if it's more kind of, high-level university, or if it's more for small children. I know there's also a lot of therapeutic weaving, and there's like, at least in Denmark, we have these højskole where a lot of often elderly people go and learn to weave. Do you have any idea if it's more one or the other, or is it a big mix? Or?
Lately in Finland we have so basic elementary schools for even computer looms, small computer looms, and that's a good trend. If they get a new building, they often get money for furniture and equipment too, and that's our chance. But in some countries, like in Japan, they have mostly, I think, universities as end customers.
Okay, so it's kind of region different.
Yes, that's correct.
So locally, it's more for children. In Japan, it's more high level.
Yeah.
And the rest of the world, do you have any?
We don't even know, but it's probably more private customers in the other countries.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Right. Yeah, and I noticed when we were looking at the archives yesterday, there was quite regularly Japanese people showing up. So you have quite strong relations to some places in Japan?
Yeah, we have long roots. Even my parents' time, we had weaving courses here, and there were many Japanese people coming here, and we have had relationship many decades already from the 70s. Same companies. So I think Japanese people for some reason they like Finnish people.
Yeah. Do you think maybe there's a temperament that matches? Or?
Maybe something like that, and not too much talking.
Do you remember how the first connection happened?
It has been before our time, but I've once been there and met these companies there, but I don't know how they met. Probably they had inquired our product contacts and they came to our weaving courses and it started from that.
Yeah. So it's through the courses. And you used to do a lot of weaving courses, but you don't now. Could you maybe talk a little bit about the courses?
Yes, they were part of the export campaign in the 70s, and they were arranged during summer times, and most of these visitors students came from America and Japan, and it was, I think, 2 weeks period. And
I'm a little worried if how much the sound picks up. It might not. But
okay,
just,
okay. Yes, I can see it moves there. This
yeah,
sound,
so it
yes,
might pick it up a little bit, maybe not.
Yeah.
Just in case, it won't be a shame if I scratch.
Okay, okay. So they were spent about 2 weeks here, and it was some different places. Sometimes even at our factory, they were cleaned and put looms there, and people wove there. Or then we had in Hyvinkää once the course, and in Valkeakoski. And sometimes they were even living at our house, our home, and we went to our summer cabin. Boys and father were there at that time. So it was. I have a lot of memories of that time. These people came here, and they very often bought new loom after the course and stuff there. And I think the most important was that they took the knowledge of us and of weaving to their home countries, and the relationships stayed. And I think there are even some after 45 years that remember and are in touch with my mother about this.
So it was mainly Japan and the States? Or
Yeah,
was
those are, and also some Middle Europe countries, like Germany and Holland. Yes.
What kind of time? When was this?
This was, I think, started about 75, and the last was maybe 1980 or 1981, about that time.
So not that long a period, but it sounds like it was actually quite important to build these relationships to customers. As
Yes, and our competitor did the same too. So I don't know who started first, but
Sometimes a little competition.
yeah.
So how come you stopped to do this?
My parents stopped it already before us, and I think they probably was not. It was very hard to arrange. Your summer was there. If we had a couple of courses, and summer here is very short, as you know. So
Yeah.
I think that was one reason, and maybe there was not demand enough. I don't know actually, but we haven't arranged for foreigners with more of these courses, but we have had some for concerning computer weaving, some courses,
You
only
have done?
one day courses.
And you're making these computer weaving courses now?
Not lately, but when it was new in the 90s, yes.
In the 90s. So in
Yeah.
the 90s you have 1 day courses
yes,
with this
yes.
computer looms.
Yeah. And using the software mainly, but some of the weaving.
Yeah, that makes sense. Yeah, it's a whole different endeavor, teaching versus manufacturing and also
Yes,
selling. So
yes.
I think it definitely makes a lot of sense.
Yeah.
It's curious. Maybe it's also just because we're looking at the archive. There's so many pictures, so it became really alive in my head. All these little teams sitting there with their things they made. Is it something you would consider going back into in the future, or you think that's for a different time?
Could you explain more?
Weaving courses.
Yeah.
Weaving courses.
do-
It could be special weaving courses because you have to think differently when you have a computer loom. If you think what you have learned concerning manual looms and designing, you close a lot from yourself, but you have to realize that you have much more possibilities, and this kind of attitude should be brought to users. That would be something we could arrange in the future, and it is mainly using the software anyway, but there would be the 1 or 2 looms available where people could try it. It would be for those who already have the computer loom, or anyway people who are used to weave and know the basics, but how to enlarge their knowledge.
What about things like using social media for something like this? Like, I haven't actually looked at it, but I saw that you had a YouTube channel
Yeah, yes, that's right.
to like teach through videos. Is that something?
Yeah,
you might consider?
that's good. Yes, we have there how to gather looms and using computer looms and adding the unit to an existing loom. That's important, and that's a good idea to also to have. And we thought these new features for the computer control could be introduced in the social media.
Yeah, because there's some possibilities there where you don't have to come to a place and stay the whole summer.
That's right.
Yeah,
Or it has changed.
Yeah.
Yes.
it can be hard to keep up with everything.
We have had some courses how to use the Siru, the frigate heddle loom. We had now lately.
Yes. Yes.
Toijala,
Yes.
Can I just comment? I just think so. I think this is really interesting about potentials, but in that so one thing is about the knowledge about the computerized loom and its possibilities, but I think there is also this what you created there in the 70s with community and like getting together around weaving for a limited time. That's also something that I think has a lot of potential again because of digitalization.
Yes.
So because we're so much with screens and computers, to have those retreats where this week we are working on Siru and exploring. I think that's also has a particular moment of time we're in.
That's right.
Yeah.
That's right, yes.
But it's hard when you do a lot of different things. I wanted maybe to, I think I've gotten around the question, but I was just thinking about bringing in the furniture just quickly, just to kind of ask, when did you start doing the furniture and why? And how do you see the future with the weaving part of the company versus the furniture part of the company?
Okay. We realized in the 90s that weaving is not a growing brand, so we have had this machinery, and we needed also to renew some machines, so that would need some volume, more volume, and we some years we were thinking of what to do. We went to fairs and thought about it, made some calculs, and then there was a planning office for us, designing office for us. They made some instructions for looms, for how to assemble looms, and they also had another customer who was selling kindergarten furniture, and they have heard from that customer that they were looking for a manufacturer for their furniture, and so we met this company in the early 2000, maybe 2001 or 2002, and started making furniture for them under their name, and we were kind of subcontractor. We delivered the furniture to kindergartens, and but they were the official company selling that, but we did all the job. We didn't do just the parts, but all the product from the beginning, and we did this about 10 years, but then, and we had a contract that we won't do anybody else these kind of products, and that was okay. But then their demand went quite low, and we would have needed more orders to do, and then when we went apart and thought that we could start marketing these products ourselves, and then we started to use Toika brand for that, and it was a good idea.
2010 or?
This was about 2014, so about 10 years ago, and it was a good idea to use Toika brand because it's quite known from the looms. They last so long, and even it was a different, totally different brands. It helped us, because if you don't have products, you don't have brand. So we kind of spread the using of this brand to furniture, and that was good idea that we moved from loose furniture to fixed furniture, and main customers have been construction companies lately. So we make beds and what's now
Like wardrobe.
wardrobes
Yeah.
and something like this which will be connected to walls.
So it's furniture for institutions, right?
Furniture, finally user is an institution, yes.
Or you also sell to private customers?
Sometimes, but that we don't much market for them,
It's
because
more-
it's important for us to make the set from beginning to the end, and soon sell it where we don't have room to stock these items. We already need a lot of room for loom parts to stock. This must be something that moves fast.
Yeah.
There.
And you have we saw the production yesterday, you have a lot of wood also that
Yeah.
has to take up a lot of space.
That even also
Yeah.
takes room and money involved in that.
Yeah. So what ties the furniture part of the company and the loom part together is the wood, right?
Wood and machinery.
Yeah, so
Yeah,
you
yeah.
specifically developed something where you can use the same machines. Yeah,
At least part of them
Yeah.
can be. Yes.
and then they support each other like we spoke about before, because the furniture you mainly sell in Finland, and the loom, it's a little bit in Finland, but it's also
Yes.
exports.
Yes.
So this way you have
The
more to stand on, so to say.
minimize the risk. Yes.
Yeah. And how do you see you going forward? What are you focusing more on, furniture or weaving? Are you considering stopping any of them, or what do you think?
I think weaving is something we started with, and it's important to. We are something on that branch globally. Furniture, okay, we are known in Finland, and our brand is appreciated, but it's a small market here, and it's difficult to say how it will develop. So I think from these two, weaving it would be more important, but of course we will look for new opportunities all the time for both sectors, and maybe third one, but you cannot spread too much. Two is already quite a lot.
It's always
for
it's
this
balance.
small company,
Because if you rely too much on one thing, you're vulnerable. But if you spread too thin, that's also difficult.
Yes.
And you mentioned a third. Is there anything new that you feel like sharing, or is it?
It should base on something we already have. We cannot start something fresh. But it probably would need the same machinery and or at least the same market.
Do you think there's anything we're missing that we need to cover?
No, I only was thinking when you Mona spoke about the programming, the making this design tool. I was thinking that you have such a strong Finnish design history, and you also, I guess, also there in the 70s and 80s there were quite many small design companies within textile. So I was just wondering when you said like I'm developing a design tool, whether it also had those companies and textile designers in mind.
No, I don't
No,
think
no,
so.
no.
I was just doing it.
Yeah.
But
Sorry.
No problem.
we had some experts, like one teacher.
Yes,
This kind of team, 3-person team.
Yeah.
And they advised her what the good software would need, what features there would be.
Yes.
So they were weaving teachers.
Yeah. Interesting. Yeah.
So we make sure we get that. So when you were developing programming the first version of the computer loom, you were working together with some institutions or individual teachers?
Teachers from institutions.
Schools,
Mm.
weaving schools.
Loima and Wetterhof.
Yeah.
I know this is annoying, but can I get you to say like a sentence where you put all that in? Like I was programming and working with teachers from.
Yes, I had some help from weaving teachers from weaving schools. When you're nearby,
Weaving
they were
master,
my
big,
expertise.
Yeah, when you were doing the early versions
Yes,
of
when
this.
I worked on them.
Maybe she moved it somewhere.
It's one of those things where I know afterwards on the editing, I'm like, trying to put all these little pieces together to format it. It makes it easier. Yeah, I took a picture of that as well yesterday. I'm a big computer geek, and the reason why I got really interested in weaving in the beginning was because I got to use WeavePoint. So for me, it was like the ignition of the weaving interest. So when I heard you program the first, I was like, whoa! That was very cool.
But I guess when you also say teachers, because Wetterhof today is it an animatikkoulu or what is it called?
Yes.
Ammattikorkeakoulu.
Yes.
Ammattikorkeakoulu.
Yeah, ammattikorkeakoulu.
Yeah.
So like a practical education.
Yes.
So basically, the people studying there, they come out as textile teachers, or what do they come out when they study textiles?
I don't think they are university. Is the one where textile teachers from Helsinki.
Yes, they have to study more if they want.
But it's a good base because at the university they don't teach weaving, only